Hey everybody, this is VG Logic, and today on this episode of Played This, we're going to be having a look at Klonoa Beach Volleyball on the PlayStation. Now this game came out in 2002, which actually makes it quite a late game for the console, as the PlayStation 2 was already out and came out in the year 2000. Curiously enough, this game did not get a release in the US, it only came out in Japan and Europe. It is a little bit odd that this game is not on the PlayStation 2. After all, it did come out after Klonoa 2 on the PlayStation 2 as well. There are even characters in the roster that are from Klonoa 2, so it wasn't that this game was made, before and then was just released late. I did have a little dig around on the internet, and honestly, I couldn't find too much on the subject, which is a bit of a shame. There are also characters in this game that seem to be exclusive to just volleyball, and in a way that's a bit of a shame because particularly Klonoa 2 was quite story driven and you got a really good kind of grip with all the characters and what was going on with them. In this game we've got in particular this guy Guntz, who I know is a bounty hunter, but I only know that because it says in the manual. I'd like to know more about him unless he's just a bounty hunter that turns up at the beach to play volleyball. I honestly have no idea. Anyway, story aside, let's have a look at the gameplay itself. In volleyball you have two characters that you control and you play against another team of two. You can't change that, it's always going to be 2v2 here. When you're playing by yourself you do actually have to control both characters at the same time. They both share the same control stick as well, so it does take a little bit of time to get used to, but after a while you do get used to it and honestly it does work pretty well. The game also does sport multi-tap if you want to play with 4 players, and there is even the option for you to share your controller with another player, so you can actually play 4-player, but with just 2 controllers. I was actually quite surprised with how intuitive the controls were. Now, you'll notice there's a 3x3 grid above each player's field. Whichever direction you're holding on the analog stick corresponds to whichever sort of corner or area you were pointing the stick for the ball to land. I probably explained that really badly, but basically put it this way. If you don't push any directions at all, the ball will land in your opponent's side of the field square in the middle. If you hold up, it will land in the middle at the top. And if, let's say, you held down and right, it will land on the furthest side of the field in the bottom corner. Now you can also pass to your teammate, which is quite handy because if you're closer to the net when you attack, it does give your opponent less time to react and less time for them to see where the ball is going to be going. On top of this, if you do hit the ball when it's at the highest part of its trajectory, you'll trigger an extra powerful shot which is much harder to counter. So you can see that combined with your sort of spacing and movement and timing, there's actually quite a lot to think about every time you take a shot. On top of that as well, you'll notice that every time you score a point on your opponent's side of the field, one of the squares in that 3x3 grid lights up. Now once 3 of them are lit up in a row, and they correspond to areas on their field that you've hit, you can activate a special attack which gives you a lot more points. It also adds some mind games into everything, especially if you're playing against another human. If you let off your special attack when you've just got one line lit up, you'll get 1 extra point if that shot connects. However, if you've been storing it up so you've got quite a few lines on the grid lit up, it won't let off just 1 extra point, it could let off 2, 3 or even 4. So you can keep letting off those special attacks to get extra points as you're going, or you can save them all and unleash a massive attack at the end, which can secure an early win. I've explained that as well as I can, but to be honest, the tutorials in this game are brilliant and they really show you how to do it very, very well. Within about 15 minutes, and that's all it will take, you will know how to play. The tutorials are that good. You know how to attack, you know how to defend, and you know how to deploy those special attacks. As for modes of play, they're pretty bare bones really. I mean, there's an exhibition mode where you can select your characters, select your opponents and just get on with it. And there's also a championship mode which is wrapped up with quite a pointless and dumb story if I'm honest. There's 5 matches to play and the last 2 of those stages are always the same kind of predetermined bosses. The story, there is really not much of a story at all, and like I said, it's a bit of a shame because I really would like to know a bit more about these characters. Maybe they were destined for a Klonoa 3 down the line, who knows. So would I recommend you play this game? Well, sure, but only if you're going in expecting just a volleyball game. Klonoa or not, this game really throws all its eggs into just one basket, and that one basket is just a volleyball sports game. Guys, I know it's quite a short one today. I mean, I started making the video, then I realised, hang about, there's not really too much to talk about. I haven't got any story to explain or anything like that. But for those that were interested, this is Klonoa Beach Volleyball. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.